2, 1. What do you feel like painting today? Anything in particular?
I don't know. Maybe I'll paint you.
Okay, I'll paint you.
Good, perfect. Wait, that's actually like a genius thing. You should do that for all of yours.
If you had to do a degree in visual arts again, would you do it? Did you find it valuable?
I wouldn't do it again because I wouldn't want to be in school for another 4 years. There were definitely like parts of it that I found very valuable, and then there were parts of it that felt pointless, but I think that's like any degree. If I were going back to school, I would probably go for something much more practical. Like if music didn't work out and I had to like return to do a degree, I think I would pursue something a little more employable. Anything in mind? I don't know. I always thought about, it sounds funny now, but in high school I thought about going into law. I'm very good at arguing. I feel like I'm good with words. But I do cry a lot, so I feel like I might like cry in the courtroom, and that would probably be...
That would be awkward.
That would be not so great, so maybe not. Maybe not law. I could also do some kind of like graphic design. It's a more employable form of art, I guess.
Is there anything you learned in like university or high school that you use now in your music, or like in the marketing of your music?
I don't know, because even in university when we were doing like courses where we talked about grant writing, I was kind of already writing grants, so I was just like submitting my things that I submitted to actual grant applications for school. I guess in high school I did piano. I'd already done piano since I was a kid, but that was part of the arts program that I was in, and we did a lot of music theory, which really sucked at the time, and the piano teacher knew it, and she would bring us in homemade banana bread every morning when we had to do theory at 7 a.m. But I feel like music theory is probably the most transferable.
Is that where you learned how to edit videos?
In high school, yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's something I probably use the most. I kind of learned that at the time that I was in high school. A lot of it I taught myself, but some of it I was learning in classes.
So you still edit your own music videos, right?
It depends. I'm always involved. Sometimes the director, like for Pisces Moon and Cornflower Blue, Matthew Pimentel, the director, did the editing, but there was also like certain sequences that I saw that I would edit and send to him and say like, can you use this? Because I had a very specific vision a lot of the time. But yeah, a lot of the music videos for my last album I edited, and I plan to continue doing that. It's a little bit of my control freak thing, I think.
How do you decide what you're going to give off to your team or keep for yourself? Like, how do you kind of learn to let go of that control?
It's really hard. I still struggle with it. I mean, it all kind of started when I started working with Laura, my manager, and she was like, I can do this and this and this. And I was like, but I've been doing that for like 10 years. So it feels weird to not do it anymore, And then once I signed with a label, there became even more things. It's like there was more things that I didn't have to do, but then there also ends up being more things I do have to do as my career progresses. So what I like about it is that I have the opportunity to focus more on the actual songwriting and the actual art, and not be caught up in like, oh, I have to like create this advertising banner, or I have to write this email. So I've gotten a lot better at like passing tasks off. Usually it's just the things that I don't want to do, then I send it to somebody else to do.
Now, when you were looking to sign to a label, and you were talking to other labels, you don't have to name names, but were there any red flags that you thought like, I absolutely can't sign with them?
Any labels that wanted to take over any kind of creative control, I was definitely not into. There was never really a point where I was actively trying to sign to a label. Like it was just kind of offers would come up and I would consider them. And until Network, the label I'm on now, made their offer, no other one had ever seemed really like good enough to justify losing my independence. I didn't feel fully understood by any of them. And and then once Network reached out, they just seemed to really understand what I was trying to do. And it really felt like it would make sense and that it was worth giving up like a certain amount of my independent work. I'm trying to think if there have been any like actual worries.
Any dramatic meetings?
Never dramatic meetings. Sometimes like emails that just leave a bad taste in my mouth that I just, move on from and ignore and like don't respond to. Sometimes like someone will reach out and say something that makes it really obvious that they haven't actually listened to my music and that, they're just copy pasting a message to each artist and hoping that people catch on. Anyone who's like asking you for money to like pay them to be involved in their service is obviously a red flag, and you get a lot of that, but I've gotten pretty good at fielding those emails.
How long did you go without having any form of team, like just working on yourself, by yourself?
I started releasing music in 2012, 2013, and I didn't start working with my manager until the beginning of 2020. So many years I was doing it on my own since I was 14.
So what kind of promotional things were you doing when you were all on your own and you had to?
Literally nothing. I'm like so bad at that. I think I just, got really lucky with the way that my music got out there. I started posting it on Bandcamp and then also sharing it on Tumblr back in the day. And I don't know, it just found an audience randomly online. And then when it really took off was when somebody posted my song Angela on YouTube. It was just some YouTube account for like sharing music, and they posted Angela and it got like millions of views. It was crazy. That was the first time that had ever happened. And it sort of grew from there. And at that point I had put one album on Spotify. And then shortly after that is when Laura reached out, and then I started working on the next one.
At the very beginning, when you were first deciding on your name, Flowerface, can you take me through the process, if you had any, like a thought process of deciding to use your real name versus Flowerface?
Yeah, I think I just never even thought about the idea of releasing music just under my full name. I think maybe it just didn't feel like a stage name to me. And Flowerface was a nickname that my grandma gave me when I was a little kid. And so it had kind of stuck throughout my life. And when I decided to start releasing music, I don't remember even thinking about it much. Like, I feel like it just popped into my head and I was like, well, I'll use that. And then I just started releasing it and it's so funny because that's like the most common thing that people mention to me is my name, my stage name.
Yeah, it's a really nice name.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not something that I really like. I never sat down and like chose between a few or like thought about using anything else.
You mentioned that you started this at 14 years old when you're just entering high school or like in the middle of high school. I know a lot of people that age want to do things, whether it's like make YouTube videos or release music like you, something public, but they're worried that people at their school will see and maybe think it's weird. Did you have any of those fears, and how did that experience go for you?
Honestly, I think that the best thing about me starting at 14 is that I was so just like not embarrassed by anything. I was still so clueless and thought that I was really cool. And so I was like, no, it's so cool for me to post music and whatever, and I'm better than everyone. But like, jokes aside, like I think it is, you just have to lack that sort of self-awareness that stops a lot of people later in life from doing something that, they don't necessarily have any experience in. Because yeah, at the time I had no idea what I was doing, but I totally lacked the self-awareness or the like shame to stop me. And so I don't know, it's definitely, I'd imagine, a lot harder to start later in life, because I don't know, especially now, like maybe it is an era thing as well. I feel like now with the internet, like everyone is so online, everyone is so caught up in image and what they're projecting, that it's probably even harder to just unabashedly like put yourself out there. So I think I got in kind of at the right time. But yeah, I was never worried about that. I think you just need to do it. And like, I'm sure there were people who were like laughing at me. I know there were people who like thought that I was doing something stupid or not productive or not good. And I'm like, well, it brought me here, you know, even if it's embarrassing at the time.
Yeah, I feel like it's harder for people in their late 20s to start something, because then you lose that like teenage, early 20s confidence where it's like you could do anything.
Exactly.
And you still can at any age, but it comes out when you're like in your late 20s, a lot of thoughts about what people are gonna think. Is it worth it?
Yeah, like not as much self-discovery is encouraged later in life, which is sad because I feel like there's always room for that no matter what stage of life you're in.
So I know a lot of artists kind of struggle with social media. They hate doing it. What's your relationship like with social media? And throughout the years, have you found a way to kind of enjoy the process more if you haven't already?
Yeah, it definitely sucks at times because it's pretty important to be consistent. And I go through periods where I'm like, I don't want to post at all ever about anything. And then I go through periods where I'm like cool with posting more and sharing more of my life. But like that doesn't really fly, at least at my stage of my career. I think like once I get a little further, it'll be okay for me to like distance myself more, have like somebody handle my social media. But at this stage, like it's kind of still important for me to be connecting. So it's hard. Like sometimes I find it really fun. Other times I find it not fun at all. And I have like, you know, reached a point where there are people who like speculate about details of my personal life. And it's hard to walk that line of like, how much do you share? How much should you be sharing? And like, how much vagueness you can get away with, you know? It's a weird thing. And it's like something that artists did not have to deal with in the past, but now feels like kind of built into the career.
How do you know when a song is finished? Because I know a lot of musicians and they always want to add tiny little extra steps and they delay the release by so much because it's the perfectionism that goes into it. So how do you manage that?
I feel like a song never feels finished, ever. Even now looking back at like listening to songs from my last album, I'm like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done this. I think that it becomes a little easier when there are more people on the team and more like steps along the way. But honestly, for me, a song is finished when I just don't want to hear it anymore. When I've been working on it for so long that I'm just like, I can't do any more for this. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, I should have like added this part. I should have changed this part. But I don't think any artist ever feels like their work is entirely finished. Like this painting does not feel finished at all.
So it's more like a surrender, like you're putting your hands up, like just take it.
Yeah, basically.
All right, so that was my conversation with Flowerface, my friend Ruby, and you can go to flowerface.com to check her out, and please listen to her album, The Shark in Your Water, on Spotify. It's amazing. She has almost 1 million monthly Spotify listeners now, if not 1 million. I mean, it goes up so fast, so I really appreciate her being here with me and chatting, and we painted each other, so...
It's horrible. It's so bad.
It's not gonna be worse if I... So now we're gonna do the reveal to each other, and then we'll show the camera. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Why
do we have a South Park character?
Oh god! What the hell? Oh my god!
Oh my god!
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
This is gonna be the last interview.
I'm gonna hang it on the wall. Actually, I love it.
That's so sad. Okay. Well.
Amazing.
I appreciate that. It's a really beautiful representation of me.
Oh my god, that's so funny. I'm keeping it for sure.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was worried I look like right now. Confirm. All of my body dysmorphia has been confirmed.